Hi, this is David, software engineer with R3. The objective of this video is to give you a quick overview of the new command line interface being introduced in CNM 1.3. So before CNM 1.3, the way you can manage network configuration and administrative operations was to access the machine running the services and use their built-in shell using predefined credentials. It's important to note that this setup is not going away with the new release, but it stays fully backwards compatible. However, we're introducing a new centralized way of accessing these functions in the form of a command line interface, which will be complemented with a GUI in the future releases. In order to have an understanding of how we make this possible, it's important to mention two new components of CNM 1.3. The first one is an authentication and authorization service, which replaces the previous way of defining administrative credentials in config files and makes it possible to have multiple users present in the system with possibly distinct privileges. The second one is a gateway service, which allows outside access to the management features in CNM. You can think about it as an ingress point into the network, which allows our command line application to have access to all the services inside the network. It is also possible to have multiple instances of this new gateway service, with potentially different network access and firewall rules around them, while restricting access to certain similar services on a per instance basis. And now that we got that out of the way, let's see a quick overview and actual demo of the CL application. As a side note, before diving into it, all the available commands are grouped based on functionality, and there are multiple levels of subcommands with help available at every step on every level. So it's very easy to discover the CLI tool for yourself. So the first thing you have to do is you have to tell the command line tool at least one gateway service and your user credentials, so it knows how to authenticate you and how to connect to the CENM network. So in order to make it easier to access multiple gateways from the same place, we introduced the concept of something called a context. In short, this just refers to a certain gateway service address and saved user credentials that can be used to access it. So you can have multiple contexts set up, but you can only select one at any time to be active. And from that point on, all the CNM network management commands will use this selected context for execution. It is also possible to select the context on a per command basis should you feel more comfortable that way. So let's see how this works in the practice. So I have the CLI tool set up on my computer, and I'm also running a local CNM network with all the components set up and multiple gateway services in this case. So if I just run the CNM command, it will tell me that it needs a subcommand, and obviously for the context management options, those are grouped under the context subcommand, where I can actually just take my credentials and log in. So here I will just use the password empty because I want to use interactive entry. I'm going to use my username, and I will also set up an alias for this gateway service so it is easier to reference it in future usages. So now I have to enter my password. Now my access to this specific gateway service and to the CENM network behind it is safe. And from this point on, I can actually do CENM specific operations. So for example, I can query addresses of different services in the network. As I mentioned, help is available at every level of the subcommands. So let's say I want to check the status of the zone service. I can just run this subcommand, and I'm notified that the service is reachable. The same is true for identity manager features, for example. So if I enter into the identity manager subcommand, I end up with a bunch of options for managing CSRs, revocations, the revocation list itself. Obviously, I can query the service status itself as well, which is for some reason is stopped at this point. And also there are different network map operations available. You can manage the network parameter updates fully from this command line interface, as you can see. And also, obviously, you can run signing commands if your user have the proper entitlements. So I hope this small introduction gives you an idea about a new way of administering CENM. Of course, more and detailed information is available